from all the people, all the artists you've met, it's very unusual to meet someone who's met so many artists of major standing. You know, I would include Gillian Ayres, and so many of the people that you've spoken to, artists who work very, very hard. They're not dilettantes. They're not. They're deadly serious in the right way about what they're doing. Is there any common characteristics that you've noticed in all those, so many interviews that you've had?
Well, I think so, probably, yes. Going back to Frank Auerbach, Frank, when I published my biography of Michelangelo, which was 2013, I think, Frank, to my delight, bought a copy and read it, and then he sent me a card, again hugely flattering. And one of the things he said was, "I see the artist type hasn't changed much in the last 500 years." So Frank obviously thought he recognised traits. What could they be? Well, I think artists care very much about things that most people may not even notice. I mean, another point that comes up in this new book about Hockney is what Hockney remembers, what matters a lot to him. He sort of, while we were talking, he came up with a memory. We were talking about colour, and he said, once I was in Japan getting a prize or something, and up afterwards, it turned out he'd got the extraordinarily prestigious thing, which was funded by the Emperor of Japan and had been at a banquet. But the other people present had been Willem de Kooning and I.M. Pei, and so anyway, that hadn't made a huge impression on David. But what had was that the Emperor's sister had come in, he said, wearing a most marvelous black garment, which was composed of 3 different shades of black, and within each shade there were further blacks you could see. And he said, "I've never forgotten it." and I thought, when he was saying that, well, that's obviously that stood out, whereas the dinner, the prize, and everything else, well, that's whereas many people wouldn't notice it at all. Artists care desperately about things which are to do with, well, for example, visual nuance, which pass most people by. They're also not alone. Writers and all sorts of people have this problem. They're doing what Lucian Freud described as spending almost all their time something which is practically impossible. So there's a tendency to just concentrate on the main task, which may cause trouble for their private lives and their domestic lives, and so not necessarily. Again, Frank Auerbach told me that he thought of all the painters he'd met and heard of, John Constable was one of the very few who was absolutely conventionally decent, honourable family man who you could imagine collecting the children from school, doing his turn with the washing up and the housework. Frank thought most artists he'd met not.
Yeah,
got their artist's license, which let them off all those sort of things. So maybe there are common factors, good or bad, to do with if the whole thing requires tremendous commitment and sort of 100% concentration and concentration on all sorts of things that don't matter at all to 99.9% of humanity.
Yes, indeed.
Except perhaps when they finally see the result.
Yes. Well, going back to that, Royal Academy show, when people saw the result of Hockney's paintings of those woods and so forth, you felt enriched by that result. that somebody is looking at those elements of life that we don't notice.
Yes.
You can feel there's a real thirst from everyone for beauty, for those elements of life that we don't notice. We want all of life, don't we?
Yes, and we need to concentrate more on, you know, that special black Japanese black cloth, or another of Hockney's examples. In Yorkshire, he'd point to the road when he was driving along to one of his landscape sites and say, "What colour is that?" And people would say, "Well, it's road colour." And he said, "No, it's a bit purple or it's a bit pink." I was like, "We need to." And it's actually enhances life to see more, or to notice more detail, and I think that's a valuable thing life can do, and that's a bit Buddhist too. I'm not sure.
I think it is. So that's a great place to finish, Martin. Really, really lovely to talk to you. It's such a privilege to meet someone who's written and thought and explored all these artists and been in such dialogue with artists for so long. So thank you very, very much for
a great pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, well, very, very good. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good. Thank you very much, Martin. That's great.
That's a cut, is it? That's a take.
That's a cut. Sorry to have to start you again, you know, after the